Hey everybody, Steve here, and welcome to a very requested video. I am going to do a BIOS mod on a brand new, straight out of the box, XFX RX Radeon 580. You can see the stock clock speed is 1366, and the memory clock is clocking in here at 2000. I've let this thing run for about 17 minutes now, and it is mining Ethereum. And our average megahashes over the course of 17 minutes is 20.13, and our 5-second is 21.47. Now, I will say that I am using recording software right now, and this is a mining rig, so it's only got a Celeron processor and 4 gigs of RAM. So this recording software that I'm using right now is taxing my hash rate by about 2 megahashes. What we're going to do is we're going to BIOS mod this thing, and in order to BIOS mod it, you're going to need several pieces of software. And let me go ahead and fire up Firefox here. To go ahead and do this, you're going to need a few pieces of software. The first thing that you want to type in is go to Google search and type in GPU-Z, and techpowerup.com/GPU-Z should be the first thing that pops up. What I'm doing right here is I'm left clicking, opening link in a new tab. So we're going to need that. We're also going to need Polaris BIOS Editor. Polaris BIOS Editor. And there's a GitHub from a person by the name of, no, I'm going to butcher the name. You can see it right here. I don't want to butcher the poor guy's name. And I'm going to go ahead and right click. I'm going to do new tab. So another thing we're going to need is Ati Flash. And there's another Tech Power Up link, and you're just going to right click. All right, well, you got ATI up there. We're going to do ATI KM DAG. And there's the patcher right there. And you should see this link right here. I'm going to right click and open that one too. All right, so these are the pieces of software that we're going to need to do the BIOS flashing, and we're going to start with GPU-Z. So I'm just going to go to Tech Power Up, and I'm going to download GPU-Z. Now, I already have it on my computer, so you're just going to go here, show more versions, and make sure you download it from right here. Pick which server you want to download it from. And it's just an executable, so you're going to run that. So save it. It'll end up in your downloads folder, and then once you get to your downloads folder, you're going to run the executable, and it will load the software. Pretty simple stuff. So there's that. The next one is GitHub from this guy right here, and this is the Polaris BIOS Editor. And what we're going to want to do here is, you see where it says clone or download? I'm just going to go here, and I'm going to download the zip. And I'm going to save the file. It's going to put it in my downloads folder as a zip file. I'm going to make an assumption that if you're doing something as advanced as messing with the BIOS on a piece of hardware, that you know how to open up a zip file. So that's going to end up in your downloads. You're going to want to unzip it to whatever folder you're going to be using it from, and we'll come back to that later. All right, so the next one is Ati Flash. The download is the exact same way you did the GPU-Z. And then the Pixel Clock Patcher. This is going to be from a person by the name of ToastyX, and this is at monitortest.com/forum thread-amd-ati-pixel-clock-patcher. And this is another zip file. Same rules apply. Read all this stuff because, you know, the internet's like a box of chocolates. We never really know what we're getting. Now, I've been through this process already, and I can tell you that I didn't have any issues with my computer after downloading these 4 programmers. But do your due diligence and make sure that you're okay with downloading this stuff. Okay, so one other thing that you're going to want to do before we proceed is you're going to want to get the blockchain drivers for your card. So just do a search for AMD blockchain drivers. That's the very first one that comes up. And this is what you want right here. So essentially what you do is you pick it for your operating system. It's an executable. So you basically just save the file, run the executable. It'll ask you to reboot and you should be good to go. Now I've already done all of that. So obviously I do not need to do that. All right, so looking at our setup, I've got the card in the main PCI slot, and essentially I have my monitor plugged into the integrated board on the motherboard. So we're going to have to tell our BIOS that we want to work from the integrated graphics capabilities of the motherboard. So in order to do that, we need to do this. We need to fire up our computer. Okay, so in order to get into the motherboard, as soon as you fire up your computer, you need to hit F2, or in my case, I hit delete. And I can get into the BIOS this way. So now I'm just going to check my focus. Okay, so now every motherboard's different, so I can't exactly tell you how to do it on your specific motherboard. On this MSI motherboard, you go into Advanced, and then essentially you come down to Integrated Graphics Configuration, and you click on it. And you see the IGD, that means Integrated Graphics. So PEG is from the PCI slot. You can't really see that, can you? Well, this says PEG. Let's see if I can make it to where you can see that. All right, so here you can see where it says PEG. We do not want PEG. We want IGD. We want the integrated one. So now IGD is selected, and essentially I'm going to go to now I'm going to go up to Save and Exit, and I'm going to say Save Changes and Reboot, and say yes. And now when my computer reboots, it's going to reboot from the integrated graphics and not from the card. So that's the initial setup. Let's jump back up onto the computer and we'll do the rest. Now somewhere you've probably placed a link to the GPU-Z, and we're going to open it up first and we're going to take a look at what we got. Now we're assuming right now that your graphics card is plugged in. Okay, so here's my Intel, this is my integrated graphics card right here, but my AMD graphics card is actually in the PCI slot on my motherboard, and I'm only doing one card at a time. Keep it simple, keep it clean, that way you don't hose anything up. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select RX 580 series. And as you can tell, there's a lot of information here, but we're really only interested in a couple pieces of information. We're interested in the memory type, and here the memory type is Hynix, which is a good thing because that's easy to mod. And then here we're interested in the memory size, and it's an 8,000 megabytes, which is an 8 gig card. You probably know that you already have an 8 gig card. But there's some other cool information that we can get from here as well. If you go into the Advanced section, and from General, I'm going to go down to AMD BIOS, and I'm going to click on AMD BIOS. So here you can see that entry 2 is Samsung and entry 3 is Hynix. So you can see that it's a dual BIOS card. Now the other thing that you can see in this advanced section is something that's very, very important, which is the memory timings. And that is essentially what we're going to mess with to increase our hash rates. So we're in position 1, so we're in the Hynix memory. And the general rule of thumb is we're going to take this memory timing, it's called a memory strap of 1750, and we're going to copy it up. Now remember, this works for 8 gig cards. It should work for MSI, Asus, Sapphire, and XFX cards. 8 gigs only. Now coming back here, pay particularly close attention to this Hynix right here. Okay, if it says Hynix, you're in good shape, and you should be able to change the 1750 to the 2000 without any issues whatsoever. You can also BIOS mod Samsung fairly easily. If you see something like Micron, do yourself a favor and do a whole bunch of more reading before you try to just go and flash a Micron card. They are particularly finicky, require kid gloves. I don't have one right now, so I can't show you how to do a Micron card, but let's just go ahead and continue with this Hynix card. Okay, so now this next step is the single most important step of the whole process. So make sure you do this step. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make a clean copy of your unmodded, unmessed up BIOS. And the way you do that is just to mouse over here onto this icon and click on it and say Save to File. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to save it with a name that you understand, like, I don't know, clean XFX RX 580 8 gigabyte Hynix, something like that. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to say save. And there it is. All right. So now that we've got a nice backup of our original ROM, we can move on to the next step. For our next step, we are going to go into Polaris. And I'm going to grab the Polaris that you all just downloaded. And make sure you right-click and run as administrator. And you will be greeted with this screen right here. All right, first thing that you notice is that there's no information in here. So what we're going to do is we want to open up that clean BIOS that we just took a snapshot of. And here it is. Here's our clean Hynix. And let's open it up. And we're going to get some data in here. Got the general data information right here. This is confirming both, we've got Samsung and Hynix. And let's go ahead and look at some of this stuff. There's our memory timings. There's our frequencies. You may remember, I don't know whether I mentioned it or not, another cool thing that GPU-Z does is it shows us our GPU clocks, because this is going to come into, this will probably come into play a little bit later. But our stock GPU clock is at 1366 and our memory is at 2000, which is what these guys right here are indicating. So anyhow, we are going to play with the memory timings. Now, remember, when we're dealing with an RX 580, and you have to do your research, because I don't have any 570s and I don't have any 480s. But I do know with a 588 gig, all we want to do is come down to the 1750 strap, and we're going to copy it and we're going to paste it into the 2000. Look at this. This actually does it manually for us. If I click in the 1750 and I go to the end, and then I click into the 2000 and I go to the end, you notice that these two numbers are different. Okay, 303A17 is different from this 19 right here. But once I hit that button, it's going to replicate the 2000 timing in the 1750 timing. And a lot of this just looks like gobbledygook, but essentially the higher the timing, like this one right here, the higher the timing, the more time in between memory accesses, right? So by default, the lower the timing, the less time in between memory accesses. So if this indicates less time in between memory accesses and we paste it here, there's going to be less time between memory accesses, and that's essentially why you get a faster hash rate, because you're using the 1750 in the 2000. So essentially with less time, you get quicker access. So you may be asking yourself, well, why don't we just grab this one? Well, the lower speed you go, you get faster timings, but it's also going to cause some major instability. If you grab the 1375s, if you strap 1375s all the way up, I've never done it. I'm not sure exactly what the ramifications of that are. You may brick the card completely, but I don't think you'd have a whole lot of success. And we can come down here too. I'm just going to I'm hitting the end button, and I'm clicking in, and I'm hitting the end button, and I'm clicking and I'm hitting the end button. So what we're going to do is we're just going to, in the older versions, we would have to basically cut and paste the 1750 to the ones above it. But here it looks like we just have to press a button. So let's watch for this 3D 17. Is this a 3D 17 too? Oh, that's a 3A17. All right, so let's just go ahead and strap to upper. All right, and see what happens. I'm going to go to the end. So here 3A17 has been copied from the 1750 to the 2000. And down here, let's go to the end, and the end, and the end. All right, so it looks like. So these three are now the same. And you can confirm that by going to home, home, home. You can see all those are the same as well. Come back up here. You can see that these are the same, just the 1750. Click in it, go to home. Click in it, go to home. And you can see that they are the same. So this is the general principle when it comes to BIOS modding an 8 gig card. is you're going to copy your 1750 straps to your 2000 and above straps. So I'm a big advocate of baby steps. So let's go ahead and save this as it is. Don't forget to donate to the guy who created the software. Definitely do that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to copy. I'm just going to click on it so that I get clean down here. Now I'm going to take away the word clean and I'm going to type in modified. All right, and I'm going to hit save. All right, so I don't have any use for Polaris anymore, and now is the big step. This is where we are going to do some flashing of the BIOS. So you probably do not have the command prompt on your desktop like I do. If you do a lot of these things, you'll probably want to because it's nice and easy. But essentially, if you don't have access to it here, you probably have access to it here somewhere. Or you can just basically go here and type in COMM, and you get command prompt. But what you want to do is you want to right-click Run as Administrator. That's the important part. So that's going to open up your command prompt, and the next thing you want to do is we're going to want to go to the folder that you created called we are going to want to go to the folder that you created for Ati Flash. For me, it's right here. So now I'm in it, and what I want to do is I'm going to click right over here. That highlights everything. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to copy. I'll pop back over here. And for those of you who are old enough to remember DOS, CD space, and then I'm going to right click and it's going to paste for me the path to get to the Ati Flash. And then I hit enter. And now I'm in that directory. And if I want to see what's in the directory, I can type in dir. And it printed it really fast. So if I wanted to slow that down, I could do a dir/p. So it'll print a screen and it'll pause. See the bottom, it says press any key to continue. And I can do that. And then the one that I like the most is dir/w, which means print it wide. So therefore, it only takes up this much room. I can see everything. I know I'm in the right. Folder. All right. Now, here is the first command to do a flash, and that command is Ati Flash space tac or hyphen or dash unlock ROM space 0, and the 0 represents PCI slot number 0, which is where your card should be. And remember, we're only doing one card at a time. Do not, if you're watching this video and you're new at this, do not, under any circumstances, do more than one card at a time. It's just asking for trouble. When you get real good at it and real confident at it, then maybe you do more than one at a time. I don't ever do that. So anyhow, unlock the ROM, hit enter, and the ROM is unlocked. So now we're going to actually flash the BIOS. So Ati Flash space dash F for force space dash P for PCI slot 0 space. Now we've got to tell it what ROM do we want to flash. And in our case, we want to flash the modified. So I usually come back over here to Windows, I right click, and then I go to rename, which seems really weird, but just stay with me here. Left click and drag so that it's highlighted. Right click and copy, and then just kind of click off of it so you don't mess it up. But now you can just bounce back over here, and you can right click. As soon as you right click, it'll paste it in, and there it is. So it's Ati Flash space dash F space dash P space 0 space your modified ROM, and you hit enter. And if all goes well, it's going to tell me to restart my system, which is great. So in order to restart my system, I'm going to type in shutdown space dash R. That means to restart. If you want to just completely shut down, you would do a dash S. Obviously, I can't hit the enter key right now because I need to stop my recording. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my recording, I'll hit my enter key, and I'll pick it back up when Windows comes back up. Okay, so there's one more step. I'm going to go into our folder where you saved all your software, and if you remember, this patcher, the ATI KM-DAG patcher. We're going to want to right click on it. We're going to run it. We are going to run it as administrator. Say yes. And we're going to patch the driver. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're good. Now we should have a successfully BIOS flashed card. So let's go ahead and run a test. All right, so we're about 23.75. All right, I increased the fan speed to try to cool this guy down a little bit. This is the working average for the last 5 minutes. It's at 19.97, but last 5 seconds, we're in at 23.8, a little bit faster than we were before we changed the memory straps. As you can see, increasing the fan speed obviously is bringing the temperature down, which is great. But we really, what was it before? I'm trying to remember. It was 20 or 21. We got 3 mega hashes from that. But what else can we do to try to get some more out of this Hynix card? Well, one of the things that we can do is we can mess with the core clock speed and the memory clock. It's also important to note that the software that I'm using for the screen capture device is stealing from our mega hashes. But yeah, let's go ahead and mess around with some more settings and see if we can't get more than 23.79 out of this guy. So let's go ahead and take our memory clock and let's give it a little bit more memory. Take this guy up to 2100 and see what happens. We'll keep an eye on that 23.77. And we'll go ahead and make another adjustment here. I'm going to take our core clock down to 1200. 1200 and 2100. See what that does for us. Okay, so at 1200 and 2101, we're floating around 23, 24. Without this camera on, that's probably more like 25 or so. So a little bit of improvement by changing those. Just by the way, after rebooting, you can see that our GPU clock and our memory has returned back to its default. So we definitely need to change those 2 items in the BIOS. So we're going to do another flash, but that begs the question, how do we get it from the 24-ish that we saw all the way up to, you know, what some people are getting in the 29 to 30 range? And that is what we're going to look at next. So we are going to go back into Polaris. Whoops, I'm sorry, I got to get the one that you have. This one right here, right click, run as administrator. And this time we're going to open the modified. We'll start with our modified this time, and we're going to open it. Now we've already messed with the memory timings. So go into the frequencies. We already know here that we're going to be changing these to 1200 and 2100. And as you can see, it's still showing 1366 down here. So we want to save the BIOS. Don't forget to donate to the guy who created the software in the first place. And we're going to call it modified. And we're going to say save. And we're going to say yes. And I guess we got open the modified. Frequencies, there's 12 and 2100. And here's our voltages. Oh, here we go. Good. So our top voltage is 1200 now, which is great. So what else can we do? Well, let's go into our memory timings. I'm going to come down to the Hynix. I'm going to grab the 1750. And I'm going to control A for all, and I'm going to control C for copy. And now I'm going to go into the strap editor. I'm going to paste it in and hit analyze. And a lot of this information doesn't mean anything to you, and it doesn't really mean a whole lot more to me. But if you're really, really smart and you understand electronics, hardware, and stuff like that, you might be like this guy. Here's a website where I'm basing this information off of. It's called hardwareformining.com. And this guy does a better job of explaining some of these detailed intricacies of these timing straps and other things. And what I want to focus in on is this chart, particularly the ones in green, where he helps us with some of the values that he used to get to 30 megahashes. So what I want to do is I want to take this strap right here is based on all of these numbers right here. The second you change one of these, it's going to change the value of the strap. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to copy these numbers. That's going to create a new strap. I'll dump the strap back into the values and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so once the information is all put in, I'm going to go ahead and hit modify strap. I'm going to get a new strap number, copy it to the clipboard. Now I can go back to here and I'm going to go ahead and paste it in. First of all, get rid of these. And I'm going to do just these three. So these are the Hynix right there. I'll do just these three. I'm going to leave those others alone for now. And now I'm going to save BIOS. Don't forget to tip the guy. And this time I'm going to call it modified 2 and hit save. Okay, now time to reflash the BIOS. We are going to go to command prompt, right click, run as administrator. Yes. Go to the folder, Ati Flash. Copy that. Change directory, paste it in, go like this, ATI. Unlock the ROM, now ATI. Don't forget it's modified 2 this time. Okay. Shutdown /R, but I have to turn my camera off, so I'll see you on the flip side. Hey everybody, I'm back, and as you can see, the clock's been running for about 11 minutes and 39 seconds so far. Ran into a little bit of an instability situation. Ended up having to go back in and copy the strap numbers to both the Hynix and the Samsungs. So copying just the Hynix did not do it. It crashed on me a couple times before I even had the opportunity to get the camera rolling. So all I did was just reflash it. But having made the adjustment to the 1750s and above for both the Samsung and the Hynix, as you can see, I'm actually pretty impressed. If you look at the 5 seconds, we're at 27.28. And if you remember, when I have my recording software on, I'm robbing us of about 2 megahashes. So that easily translates to 2930. So I should have had the camera off so that the average would have been better. But I know that we could probably mess with the memory clock and the core clock some more. But reason why I like these numbers, 1200 and 2100, they are numbers that I'm very familiar with. I run a lot of my GPUs on them, and I have had a lot of success in terms of stability. So I had the 2100 memory clock cranked up to 2200. I was getting another megahash out of it, but it was crashing every 6 or 7 minutes, so just don't see the point. So anyhow, I think we'll wrap it up there. I hope to have created a video that's a little different than a lot of the others you may have seen, where just pop the 1750 into the 2000 slot and be done with it. So anyhow, I'm just kind of watching this 5-second time tick away. It's hanging pretty good at over 27 with the camera on. You can see our averages coming up. Steady at 1201 and 2100 on the core clock speed and the memory clock speed. And I got to say, I'm pretty happy with what we've got right here. We've got a 5-second rate 2727, which should be around 2927. The average is coming up. But I think I'm going to just go ahead and leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. If so, please like, comment, subscribe. Lots more videos coming for you. I got a whole list of stuff that I'd like to get around to doing. So please stick around, and I will see you in the next video.